1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are now on episode 19.
19!
An episode after our last one, which was our Thanksgiving special, which was released a week after Thanksgiving.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, I'm already. Sorry, I'm
You're
all
already-
over the place. I'm focusing. Someone's talking to me about the channel, and so I'm instinctively reacting.
Yeah.
And,
I
I should not do that.
So a point of clarification that Blue made before this was he actually hasn't slept yet, and he is hopped up on coffee.
I am. That's why I'm speaking very quick, or at least it's in my head. It sounds very quickly.
You are speaking
And,
very quickly.
Okay, cool. I'll shut up.
It's fine. In fact, shutting up is probably the worst thing you could do on a podcast.
I mean, well, maybe they want the sound of silence.
They could just have an ASMR of me drinking tea.
And coffee.
Oh, man. Well, anyway, so to the topics segment, we only had a couple things. One mystery topic, which Blue won't tell me about, or hasn't told me
Oh, it's
about
not really
yet.
a mystery. I was just gonna,
Reveal it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with that?
Okay, well, it's something that's been... I've watched a couple of videos on this. The most recent one was earlier today. And that is about Pokemon trading cards.
Okay, that's something I haven't heard about in years. I did used to, play the Pokemon trading card game when I was, 5. No, I was old. I had to be a bit older than that. Maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah, I was never a big Pokemon card fan. I was more of a Digimon fan in general, but, sorry, I've got to stop looking at this guy's chat. Right. He's been really nice. What a lovely guy. So I watched people doing these things where they buy a box of the original Pokemon cards, okay? So these original super condition whatever bollocks. And they're opening them on stream, and they're showing the price of them, right?
Yeah.
So for one single, not a box, for a single booster pack, the little plastic thing with about 7 or 8 cards in it,
Yeah.
$1,500.
I could see that. It's an unopened original pack. Somebody would have had to have bought that and then sit on it for 2 decades.
That's the average. But so I was watching some of the cards come out. The average card went for about $90, and we're talking about I was gonna say Mr. Mime, but Mr. Mime's more valuable than that.
Yeah.
A fucking mushroom boy. I don't know. I can't even think of what a shit Pokemon is in Gen 1 at this point.
The guy you're thinking of is Paris.
Yes, oh god, yeah. Okay, Paris was less than $90.
Or a Zubat.
I actually didn't see any Zubats. It might have not been that particular.
I was just
set
trying to
that it
think
came
of
in.
shitty Pokemon.
But the best one, he got a shiny Snorlax, right? And that's the best one he could have got from the boxes. Shiny Snorlax on its own, single card, just under 16 grand.
I should look back at my old Pokemon collection.
Yeah, you should.
I still have all the cards. They're in a chest of drawers at my parents' place. They're all in binders, in cases and stuff, so they should be in decent condition.
Bear in mind, I'm talking about 16 grand for a mint condition, not in any way damaged.
Yeah, all of mine
perfectly
would
printed.
90% of mine would have been in mint condition because the ones I played with would have been a little rougher because I played with them.
Yeah.
But I generally treated them all with very gently. It always made me cringe when I'd see people playing the game and then they'd shuffle them like a deck of cards, but they'd bend them. It's just oh god.
But yeah, and the evolutions. EVs were also quite. I think a regular EV, not shiny, was about $350.
What? I've got like 30 of those at home.
A Pikachu, again not shiny, was about $550.
Yeah,
$550.
All right, it's time for me to take a closer look at those cards.
Yeah. I mean, these are Generation 1 in mint condition we're talking about.
Yeah,
Always, but,
that's when I played.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Just how vast, expensive little pieces of cardboard can be.
Well, I think I've found an idea for a future video. I'm going to dig out those old Pokemon card binders, and you and I are going to
Yeah?
go over them on a video
Oh my god.
because
Shit, I'll be here with the stats. How much is everything worth? But then, would you? I feel like even if you found out that something was super expensive, it would give me more reason not to sell it.
I mean, yeah, it's
So
not
be
like
now I'm holding an artifact.
that is probably how I'd feel about it too. Like, it's not like it's nice to know it's there, because if I ever were hard up for money, I could maybe sell them. But you're right. In thinking about it realistic, it's nice to know how much they're actually worth and that they've accrued value. But in real terms, I probably wouldn't sell them because they have more value to me in terms of like a nostalgia value, or like somebody who hangs a painting in their house, right? It's just like, oh look, I have this cool thing that's actually worth cash and it's pretty.
Mm. Yeah, and how much is nostalgia worth is the real question.
Quite a bit. I mean,
yeah.
So I was really into Transformers when I was a kid. It was my favorite show growing up. Like my favorite animated show when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and it continued to be for many years after that. And then the subsequent series that they made beyond that, the original run, they like the nostalgia for that. They released the original company that made the Transformers toys released these Masterpiece Edition versions, and they're ridiculously expensive, but they're also significantly higher quality, and they're much more accurate to what they looked like on the shows, because there was some disconnect a lot of the time. So I bought like the Masterpiece version of the original Transformers Generation 1 Megatron, which because he was the one where the original toy was like nothing like he was in the show. Which I never got the original toy because it got banned in the US because he transformed into a gun.
Yeah, it got banned everywhere, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah. The problem here is that specifically, even model guns have to have like that orange safety tip on them.
Yeah.
So they're not confused with real ones.
It wasn't like, the particular attachment on that weapon is not legal in Boston. You can't have Megatron around here.
Yeah, Megatron, you've got to get the right colored sights. You can't have a stock. Like, what are you doing, man?
Exactly, yeah. Like, if it was an M4A1S or something, like, that's fine, but,
But yeah, I got the Masterpiece Edition of that, and that was like $350 or something like that. And so, yes, nostalgia people will pay a lot for nostalgia. I actually recently bought like an old NES console secondhand, which it's surprising how cheap you can get them for. Like we sold our NES console so we could upgrade when I was younger. Like I sold my NES so I could buy a N64.
Yeah.
Which is something that I deeply regretted later because I would have really liked to still have that and still be playing those old games because I had a decent collection on that system. So in a fit of nostalgia, I bought an original NES and then some games for it just to play around on it. But it wasn't that expensive, to be honest. I think I paid $100 for the console and maybe 50 total for all of the games I got. I didn't get any of the rare games.
They're not quite old enough just yet. I know it seems a bit mad, but if it's within your generation, within your lifespan, basically, then it's probably not quite old enough yet.
If you think about it, though, the NES came out in 1985. The Pokemon cards we were just talking about came out in the mid-90s.
Yes, but I think people take a lot less care of little pieces of cardboard as opposed to giant hunks of plastic and tech.
That is a very good point.
Mm. Also, I don't know if it's just been like in the last few years or if I've just been missing the plot, but there's been a lot of restorations for that kind of stuff these days.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I think it probably also changed things a bit when Nintendo released like the NES Mini, and the like they released all the old NES games or a bunch of the old ones for free on the Switch.
Hmm.
So I think that probably hurt the market, the nostalgia market a little bit. So you've now got the people who just want to play those old games again,
Yeah.
and the only way they could have done that before was to, well, buy the old console. But now that these older games are being released on more modern things, or even the NES Mini, which looks like the NES but tiny, and you still have the same boxy controller that dug into your palms.
Yeah. Yeah, I used one of them. I trying to remember what the console was. I don't know if it's SNES or NES.
I think it was we on an earlier podcast we talked about old consoles, and when I showed you pictures, you identified it as the SNES.
It was the Nintendo 64, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, maybe it was the Nintendo 64. Okay, never mind. But I showed you a picture of the NES, the NES, and you confirmed that you'd never seen it.
Right.
At the time, at least.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's no good.
I played around with that for a little bit. My brother bought one a long time ago, and we got like Mario Kart and stuff on it, and that was pretty fun. But it's something I'd play once for the, oh hey, it's a really cool old console and it looks half decent. But it's not something I would like. It's not like a PC that I'd go on every day.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple old games. I'd pick it up to maybe do a playthrough of some of my old favorites. Like, I mean, Ocarina of Time is the classic one that everyone seems to bang on about. But I did really enjoy that game, and more than that one actually. What?
But I liked it, but generally I'm not a huge Zelda fan. I think the games drag on a little bit too much for me.
Ocarina of Time, I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun playing it as a kid, but it doesn't occupy the same sort of mythical status that it does, I feel like, for a lot of people.
No, I think Zelda's definitely dropped off over time.
Also, I liked Majora's Mask better.
It's too much thinking for this day and age. People want to shoot guns.
Ironically, though, that's something that annoyed me about the new Zelda that came out on the Switch. Like,
is that Wind Waker?
No, Wild something? No, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
that was it.
Wind Waker was the sailing one, I think.
Oh yeah, I think I quite enjoyed that one. I think I had it on DS.
I was one of the people that was too bothered by the massive shift in the graphics.
Yeah, that was a pretty big shift. I quite like those.
I if I wasn't expecting a Zelda game, I would have liked it. That was my problem.
I'd come off like a Zelda game.
I'd come off of Majora's Mask, which was like it was a very serious and kind of darker version of Zelda from Ocarina of Time, and then I went to that game next, and I was like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting. And I think if I had gone in there just thinking, hey, this is a cool like sail around adventure game, I would have liked it. But it's because of like the difference between expectation and reality, it was a bit jarring.
Mind you, you go into Black Flag thinking it's going to be an Assassin's Creed game, and then you're happily pleased that it is not.
That's true. Oh, I could have, like, that game became so shitty every time you had to play Assassin's Creed. But the rest of the game was just, hey, let's have a happy, fun time pirate adventure on the open seas.
Sea shanties.
Sea shanties, yes. In fact, finding a new sea shanty became the prime motivation for leaving your ship, because if you didn't, they would just sing the same damn one every single time.
I turned mine off pretty fucking quickly.
Oh, I loved them.
I think my boyfriend of the time, though, just fucking loved them and leave them on the whole time. He'd start, like, just randomly bursting into song in the middle of the fucking week, and it was so annoying. But like Pokemon cards, but instead something that I actually played, Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I played that too. Actually,
I did play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh.
that was the game that I played. My friends from high school, we'd after school, like a few times a week, they'd come over to my place and we'd play a few rounds of that.
Did you ever get the when they came out, the arm mounted?
No.
Did you not? Oh, my brother got
I did
one
not.
of them. It was so clunky and awkward, but you felt so cool.
I think one of my friends may have at some point, but when we played, no. And we never, like, we'd occasionally have the show on in the background, or we'd have the anime Yu Yu Hakusho on, or Cromartie High School, which is another really good one.
Yeah.
We'd have something like that on in the background and just be playing the games. But we... Oh my god.
I used to... I when it was, like, originally becoming a thing, I really enjoyed it then. When they added too many cards, and some really quite confusing cards, I kind of lost interest.
That was always the weird thing. There was a lot of the wordier the cards got, the more room for misinterpretation there was, which ends with a lot of, like, fighting when you've, like, made a deck and you think you know how something works, and it turns out that some judge somewhere made a call and it works completely different than that. It did get a little obtuse.
Well, they banned Black Hole. I mean, Black Hole's the ultimate field leveler, because if the enemy is playing super complex cards, you can just be like, ha, fuck you, they're all dead.
Yeah. What was it? There was also another one got banned. Was it Regeki?
Change of Heart, I think, got banned.
Change of Heart did get banned, but Regeki was the one that destroyed the entire enemy line and left yours alone.
Oh, I don't remember that one. I vaguely remember the name, but I can't remember what it looked like.
It was banned from in the original set. I don't think they ever unbanned it.
Right.
Like, it was only for, like, free play.
Did they ban Pitfall?
I don't know. I don't think so. Again, this is me going back and trying to remember a ban list from when I was 16.
I mean, I don't really remember the names. I just remember the pictures.
That's like me with people.
Yeah. But no, like, I really love that. I don't know how much they're possibly worth now.
I imagine it's similar, but probably not to the same extent as Pokemon.
It definitely won't be anywhere near Pokemon, I don't think.
I don't think they ever were. A lot of the Wizards of the Coast stuff, Magic cards were another one, but those tend not to be, like, unless you're talking about the seriously old ones that have been out of print forever, for, like, collectors, you're really not going to see Magic cards get up in price because they remake them and reprint them like every 3 or 4 sets.
Unless they're considered racist.
Oh yeah, then they never reprint them again.
Yeah, and they become really valuable.
That made me laugh so hard. They're like, they banned a card because it, like, it made it gave attack power bonuses to white creatures, which if you've never played Magic the Gathering, the card game, there are 5 basic, like, creature types, colors. There's red creatures, which are generally, like, offensive, like fire and mountain and stuff like that. And then there's blue, which is about, like, control, and they generally have, like, ocean motifs. Then you've got green, which is, about growth and building up power and, getting a lot of energy to summon more shit, and they're generally forest-looking. There's white, which is, like, divine creatures, like angels and knights and things like that. And there's black, which is generally, like, monsters like vampires and zombies, and it's all about, like, reanimating dead things and poisoning and stuff. So it's not like, but they banned it because the card said give all white creatures +1/1, and I'm like, what? It's like you're gonna have to ban, like, basically that entire color from the game if you go down that route. Sorry, mini rant. But
That's
the
right.
the thing Blue is referring to is a few months back, and I think we talked. Did we talk about it on the podcast? I don't know if we did.
I'm not sure. I think it might have been a bit too spicy for us at the time.
They they banned a few cards because they thought they had racist undertones, um, and it out of the cards they banned, there's only one of them that I could see being a little bit too spicy, but the other ones are just completely open to interpretation. Anyway, they banned them, and the price of those cards on like the secondhand market went through the roof overnight. Like people were buying them up left and right. So as usual, banning something because you don't want it to be seen or used has the opposite effect.
I've got I'm sorry.
It's
While
fine.
you're talking, I looked at something and I'm super mad, and I don't know if we're going to be able to discuss it or not. But yeah,
we'll talk about it in the interim between segment 1 and 2.
Indeedles. Sorry. Yes. Did you have any topics for this week?
Well, I think that one other thing we wanted to talk about, because we seem to be just talking about nostalgia
Oh
at this
yes.
point.
Yeah, I remember.
Recently, Blue pointed out that Sonic 3D Blast, which was a game that I played on the PC. We had a Windows 95 PC. This was when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and this was one of the only games we had for it. And it was this 3D like isometric Sonic game, and you'd run around, beat robots, save birds, and then fight boss battles. It was very simple, arcadey kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we've both been playing through it a bit this week, and God, that game had horrible controls.
It was back in the day, it was very normal controls as we've discussed, but to us who are now used to WASD for movement and spacebar for jump, it's very irksome to use arrow keys for movement and S and D for jump and roll.
Yeah, well, and it's
Or
A or
ASU.
D. Yeah, but
Yeah.
to be fair, after a little bit, I sort of got used to it, got into the rhythm. Like the old, it's my brain still has the memory of playing it back there somewhere. So, but it just it did take a little bit of getting used to. That's something that you don't think about so much now. Control systems are fairly standardized throughout most games now. Most games of the same type, at least.
Indeed. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was trying to remember if we discussed things already. Did we discuss the Army Men thing?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's another really, really, really old game that I played as a child, and so did another person with the Hive, which is, again, really weird because it's interesting to see what games came out in America and England, and at vaguely separate age groups would play.
Yeah.
Like, it seems kind of 1 in a million-ish, but I guess it's not because it keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are certain
Yeah.
certain games that are either timeless, but I also think there was a lot more. Like, I played a ton of games on the NES, but by the time I was old enough and playing games on the NES, it had already been out for a little over 5 years, and like the Super Nintendo was out already. The only reason I was playing games on the NES was because I got it as a hand-me-down from one of my cousins out west. Yeah, and I inherited those games, and that's why that was my only console for like maybe 5 or so years or more, and then I got an N64. That was the first new console I ever got.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe there's an element of that to it. Maybe back in the day, when you're younger, like games can last you a little bit longer because you're more easily entertained.
Also, I spent a lot less time on the computer when I was a child. We got initially we got like 1 hour of game time a week. So everything took a lot longer to do. I don't know if we ever completed Sonic. I can't remember. And we had that for years. Because 1 hour of game time is not enough time to get good at a game. It's enough to enjoy a game, which is perfect, but you're probably not going to make much progress.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I didn't really have limits put on how much time I could play, but it was more like, this is your free time, do with it as you will, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was whether or not I was, playing outside or playing on the console. I kind of did whichever. Trying to think. I wasn't like a kid who sat like glued to the TV for hours and hours. I'd kind of rotate between doing things. I didn't have the attention span to sit doing one thing for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I remember it, but who knows?
I probably would have, but then, I don't know. No, I don't know. The alternative was be bored, so I did a hell of a lot of stuff to try and entertain myself, but at the end of the day, there's not many things that are more entertaining than a specifically made game.
Yeah.
Meant to entertain people. Like, your imagination can only go so far.
I don't know. I'm remembering, like, this has just become, two men trying to remember their childhood.
Yeah. It was so long ago.
I'm so old.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we're kind of floundering here.
Yes.
Shall we talk about something else just to kind of round us off?
Yeah,
here?
have you got something? Have you got something?
Not really, no.
Okay. I have been playing... wait, did we talk about Naruto last week?
I don't know.
God, we are the worst today.
We started off strong today, and this has just all gone terribly, terribly wrong.
I think I got Naruto... Yeah, because last week it was Spyro, I'm pretty sure. I finished it for all those concerned out there. Yes, I've now completed all 3 games 100% on Spyro. I moved on to Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3.
Which sounds a lot more exciting than it is. It's 90% cutscenes.
It is. It's basically an anime. But I really like the gameplay. But I understand that a lot of other people probably wouldn't.
Watching you play it made me just want to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. It's pretty, I would say. And they've put a lot of work into it, but there isn't a vast amount of things you can do. It's more like an experience that you enjoy once, and then you're like, cool, I've done that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if I were to play it again, I would totally skip all the cutscenes, and the whole game would probably last me half an hour.
Well, that's you say it's more like watching an anime, and honestly, that's my impression from watching you play it. Is it seems to be a game that's made for people who would like to watch an anime and then occasionally press buttons.
Yeah, just to make sure you're awake. Yeah, you were kind of you're watching it, and every so often you'd pause because an important thing was being said. At some point, I think you realised that an important thing is being said every 5 minutes. So you just gave up eventually trying to talk to me. And I wasn't telling you to be quiet. It just felt right to be quiet. I understand that.
Yeah, there was there was a change in the tone, a plot point. 2 physically identical characters were talking at each other, and honestly, I couldn't tell which one was talking.
And I think it's like pretty damn close to the actual canon plot of the anime, based on my vague recollection. But there's a lot of fights that you go into, like with the whole there's the 5 Kages versus they're like the 5 leaders of all the ninjas.
Yeah, okay.
Versus the one son of God, basically. And like, oh my god, this is going to be an insane fight. And it is an insane fight. and he's in this like giant flaming blue colossus while you're attacking him with these 5 different awesome people, and they finally beat him, and he goes, "Cool, right? I'm gonna retreat now. See you for another fight later." And I'm like, "What? How can you escalate from the 5 strongest people on like the planet? Well, not the 5 strongest, but the 5 world leaders." Like, I assume that it's purely because it has to be Naruto that beats all the evil people at some point.
Oh yeah, so. This was the first of all. I want to say, because I guarantee you, if you didn't clarify what the Kages, if you didn't clarify who the hell they were, people wouldn't have known what you're talking about. That, like, I've seen the original anime. And even still, when you were talking about like plot points and who people were, I was just like, "What language is he speaking?" I mean, in theory, Japanese, but
yeah.
I think I came to this conclusion after watching a few of those cutscenes with you while you were playing it yesterday, and that was that Naruto, I think, is an anime that appeals to people who see themselves as losers. Because that's what Naruto is. He's a complete loser who just somehow ends up, being friends with all the cool people and gets all these superpowers.
It's an underdog story. Except by the end of the first season, it's not really an underdog anymore because he's the same power or higher as everyone else.
Exactly. That's kind of my point. Yes, at the beginning, that was what got me watching in the first place, and I enjoyed it because you're right, it was an underdog story. He was kind of an outcast, he was hated by people, it wasn't really clear why, and he was struggling to find his place in the world. It's like, okay, that's a good plot. But then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm also secretly a god and have all these other powers and stuff, and I can kick anyone's ass no matter what because the plot needs it to happen." And I'm like, "Okay, you've kind of lost me now."
He's not really a god. He's
not a god.
He's just
somebody
like
shoved a god
cursed
inside
by a
him.
really fucking strong demon, which kind of helps him more than anything.
Yeah, it's a. Yeah. I don't know.
There's a lot of cool characters.
There are, and that was what I used to say about that anime, was because I watched it the whole way through, and after a while I was watching it less for the plot and more for, all right, let's see what other cool person they'll bring out. Like, the show is named after the main character, Naruto, and every time he was on screen, I was like, "Oh, get this boring asshole away from me. Show me one of the other cool people." Because they'd all have these interesting powers and techniques and shit, and they'd do, like, cool stuff, and he would just do the exact same 3 moves every...
Primarily Rasengan, Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Alright. Well, there's nothing else you have to say about that game. I think we've officially hit a new low. We're talking about Naruto on the podcast.
Doesn't it make you think of college?
No, I didn't watch it in college. I watched it in high school. But yeah. Alright. We'll end this segment there. Thank you everyone for listening. This is the end of segment 1. We are now moving on after a brief transition to segment 2.